Malzberg panel. And joining the panel this hour is radio host and author of The Big Black Lie, Kevin Jackson, joins us, as well as a Newsmax White House correspondent, John Gizzi. Gentlemen, welcome to both of you.
Thanks, Steve.
Pleasure to be here.
Good to talk to you. Good to hear from both of you. I'm telling the control room at the same time, I hear. All right, let's get right to it. The big victory last night in Florida for the Republicans. Of course, we just had Reince Priebus on, and he called it a big win. And, of course, Debbie Wasserman Schultz poo-pooing it. How big a win, Kevin, do you believe this was, and what kind of bellwether might it be for the 2014 elections?
I think it's huge. I think that the fact that the Democrats, Obama had carried that particular area twice, and Jolly comes in a special election and steals their thunder, man, I think this is huge. And as far as a bellwether for 2014, this among the thousands of other things that are out there, let's look at the economy, let's look at the debt, let's look at what's happening in the Ukraine, and on and on and on, scandal on top of scandal. This is huge.
Yeah, and John, you know, the magic of Bill Clinton couldn't even bring this, as previously mentioned, twice won by Obama district to the Democrats.
Not only won by Obama, but carried by Alex Sink when she ran for governor in 2010. And remember something, David Jolly went into this race exhausted and wounded. She was unopposed for nomination. He had to defeat two opponents in a primary which split the family of the late Congressman Bill Young, his widow and his son taking different sides. He was outspent, and he was hit with the L word, lobbyist. David Jolly was a Washington lobbyist, which is not exactly an endearing title to have going into an election. All things being equal, and they usually never are, he won by a narrow margin, even as Libertarian Lucas Overby was draining 5% of the vote that historically would go Republican. I call it a win, and I also say that making an election a referendum on Obamacare, the concept of repeal and replace versus fix it but don't get rid of it, that's a pretty good strategy, obviously.
Yeah, and Kevin, you know, you alluded to all the other issues going on out there, and all reflected in the latest NBC News Wall Street Journal poll today that shows Obama's approval rating down to a record low in that poll, 41%, even down from January. And, you know, this comes on the heels of him, you know, going around the country, I got a pen, signing executive orders, touting the minimum wage and income inequality. And today he announced that there's going to be overtime requirements for businesses, and all this populist nonsense still not resonating with the American public.
Absolutely not. It's been pander central. I mean, first of all, he comes off very tough. He's got his pen and his phone. And then he's pandered to every group that's out there. He's talked about empowerment zones. He's pitted the rich against the poor. You know, he's talked about inequality in every way. He's raised the minimum wage, even though, quite frankly, in many states, welfare far surpasses minimum wage. And he's pandered to every group that's out there. He's out there hawking Obamacare. Quite honestly, I find it almost pimpish the way he goes out looking at trying to sell this albatross of Obamacare. Politicians are running from it left and right. And by the way, Jolly ran mainly on the issue of Obamacare. And as John pointed out so eloquently, all the different factors that went into that race, that even though it was a tight race, it theoretically wasn't a tight race because the Democrats should have carried it. You look at all these other factors that I mentioned earlier, and quite frankly, the multitude of others, and I'm telling you, Democrats are scared. And if you look at this race in the macrocosm of things, I think you'll see that this is exactly what the Democrats have feared in a non-presidential election, is that it's going to be a repeat of 2010.
And John, you know, you get to speak to all these people on and off the record, the Debbie Wasserman Schultz of the world, who issued a tweet which Mr. Priebus said was goofy and silly, and I agree with him. What's the climate down there? I mean, we know that there's not one Democrat that really wants Obama to be anywhere near him or her when it comes to a re-election campaign. What's the? I mean, are they really scared that they're going to get just whacked in the House and the Senate in November?
Let me use a phrase. Cautiously pessimistic is how I would describe the Democrats. And one thing I would add, though, I have just come from a panel of a dozen Republican House members, conversations with conservatives on Capitol Hill. Congressman Roel Labrador of Idaho pointed out that while Republicans may take heart from the results of Florida's 13th district, they cannot run in the fall simply on repealing and replacing Obamacare. He said, hoping that the outrage will turn people out. That's why so many people believe Barack Obama was finished in 2012. He called for a positive agenda, not just on health care, but on foreign policy, as well as immigration reform, and most of all, economic growth.
Yeah, and you know, Kevin, I want to ask you, because I'm going to mention this to, I'm going to bring this up with Herman Cain. What about the outreach? You're a perfect person to ask this to. You know, what about the outreach to the minority communities? You know, you would think in this economic climate, and knowing, as you well know, that so much of the minority communities, African American and Hispanic, are in line with conservative views, whether it comes to on social issues such as marriage and such as right to life and education, etc. I mean, are the Republicans doing anything in your view, or doing enough to get into the minority communities and convert people, if you will, to the Republican side?
The short answer is no, they aren't. And I think that the Republicans are sort of running on a strategy that the Democrat implosion is going to be enough. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think the Republicans see the numbers, particularly when it comes to blacks. I don't think that they see the numbers as significant enough. However, with Hispanics, they do. And there has been some level of outreach. I think even the capitulation in the form of amnesty and dealing with the illegal population is mainly geared towards that. But I want to go back to what John said earlier. I agree that you can't just, you know, kick the dead horse and think that everything's going to happen, even though, as the old saying goes, a dead horse doesn't know that it's being kicked. I do believe that Republicans do need to offer solutions, but I think that we are offering solutions in the sense that you can't tax and spend your way out of debt and into a good economy. You've got to do things that are creative, and there have been many great suggestions made to Barack Obama, and he's ignored them. And so I don't think the Republicans see the need right now to go after even though they do talk about it, and Reince has reached out to my team about this as well, but I still see that it isn't enough. But right now, I don't see it being significant enough to worry about in the next election, because I think that there are so many other things that people can focus on, and not just Obamacare. People are hurting. Right.
No, that's what I'm saying. Absolutely, especially in the minority community, but everybody's hurting. Absolutely. Even people working full-time jobs, they've fallen from a job that paid twice as much. John, let me ask you this. Kathleen Sebelius today testifying before a congressional committee, admitting that she has no clue. Now, whether she does or she doesn't, she has no clue as to how many people who signed up for Obamacare have actually paid a premium for Obamacare. That's huge.
It certainly is huge. And I know, for example, the number of people who've had their health policies canceled is growing. In the state of Georgia alone, it's up to 500,000 right now. Now, March 31st is what is referred to informally as the day of reckoning, when we will know if people have signed up in big amounts. When I covered the National Governors Association, governors gave different views. Governor Pat Quinn, Democrat of Illinois, said a lot are signing up. The governor of Mississippi said they are way below the numbers. And in 4 states, the appointed head of the Federal Exchange for states that did not join it have all resigned or been asked to leave.
Right.
I have a feeling it's not looking good, but we'll know on the 31st.
We will. Gentlemen, great to talk to both of you. Kevin Jackson, the book The Big Black Lie, and, of course, the White House correspondent for Newsmax, John Gizzi. Great to talk to both of you. We'll speak to you soon. Thank you. All right, folks.
Breaking news and breaking hearts. This is the Steve Malzberg Show.